Hip-hop culture would not be what it is today without our next two guests. Stretch Armstrong and Bobbito Garcia, aka Cool Bob Love, first made their mark as the hosts of the college radio show Stretch Armstrong and the Bobbito Show, giving a platform to many of your favorite rap stars today before they were even known. These days, Stretch and Bobbito not only continue to DJ and move the culture around the world, they also co-host NPR's What's Good with Stretch and Bobbito, which will return for its second season on August 15. Here's a sneak peek.
Check 1, 2, testing 1, 2.
We're back with another season of What's Good with Stretch and Bobbito, your source for untold stories and truths from movers and shakers around the world. My name is Stretch Armstrong.
My name is Bobbito Garcia, aka Cool Bob Love. We got an incredible lineup of artists, and we're gonna try to get the untold stories from them. You down?
What? I'm in.
Let's do it. You know, Cass is juicing you, telling you, yo, you nice. Did you take an L at any point?
Sorry, bro. I never took a L, man. I'm sorry I can't humanize myself for y'all tonight. That was not in the program, man.
Hey now. Woo! Stretch and Bobbito in the building. Welcome, guys. Congratulations on season 2 of What's Good.
Thank you.
You know, for some of the people who may not necessarily know about your legendariness, let's first start with the moment that you both
Our
met.
legendariosity begins actually down the block from this building.
That's amazing. Yes,
When-
you're both native New Yorkers.
Bob,
Oh, I worked at 652 Broadway,
Wow, amazing.
like 2 blocks down, and I was doing promotions.
so it might have been a Friday. In fact, I think it was, because I used to DJ at a club called MK on 25th Street. On Fridays, I'd go record shopping, likely in this building, which is 4th and Broadway, which is where Tower Records was. It closed in 2006. I likely would come down to this building, buy records at the shops along the way. Met a friend of mine nearby. She said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm going to Def Jam." So, "Oh, what are you doing there?" "I'm going to get records." "Oh, I've got the biggest crush on Robert Garcia." I was like, all right, it's good to know people at Def Jam, because Def Jam is the ish, so I'll keep that name in my pocket. I went to Def Jam, went inside, it was a Friday. Nobody was in the office. It was just a ghost town. I'm walking through the Def Jam offices.
Summer Fridays, probably.
This is 1990, right? Like, Def Jam is popping. I stick my head in the conference room, and I see a Latino brother stuffing records, 12-inch vinyl, into envelopes, likely to send out to DJs. And I was like, is there a Robert Garcia here? He's like, "That's me." And
Your memory's incredible.
and we really
That's the T.
we became instant friends, and the radio show that we did coincided with sort of the evolution of our friendship, and you know, it was like we lived together. We would do this show on Thursday nights from 1 to 5 a.m. A lot of the humor was an extension of what was going on in our daily lives and at home. You know, so it was less a case of us, you know, broadcasting, you know, thinking about what the people wanted to hear. It was more like, okay, we're on the radio in the middle of the night, and you're welcome to come into our kind of loony world, which happened to also have a lot of really great music.
Individually, when was the moment that you each fell in love with hip-hop?
Oh, wow. Recorded hip-hop would be the Treacherous 3 Body Rock. It was released in 1980. And it was lyrical mastery. We were rhyming around the way just as a pastime. But then when we saw it sort of reach that level where it could be bought and shared in that manner, and Treacherous 3 was just pushing the envelope in 1980. You know, I mean, still to this day, that you can see, if you look at the family tree of lyricism, you know, it all comes back to them, in my estimation. And but in terms of hip hop, generally, I mean, you know, I grew up in New York, so saw graffiti on the trains dating back to '72, and you know, saw people breaking dating back to the mid '70s, and you know, everything is just, it was. I grew up across the street from Rocksteady Park. I used to play football against Ken Swift when he was 11. You know, so I'm just born in and of the culture, and feel very fortunate to have experienced it in that innocent manner.
Right. In its infancy, experienced hip hop in its infancy.
Yep.
Well, what about you, Stretch?
I grew up on 96 between Madison and Park, so that's the edge of Spanish Harlem. So it was common for me to hear tapes coming out of boomboxes playing the sounds of, I would say, even proto hip hop, so like break beats and whatnot. Taking the 6 train, which was adorned with graffiti by legends like Revolt and Sharp and Zephyr and really kings of graph. But that moment, I mean, probably that crystallizing moment was in elementary school when it was really like one day when all the kids that weren't white were rapping Rapper's Delight. This is 5th grade. And, I was like, what is this hip hop hip? This is fun. What is it? And I bought the record that weekend at a store called Long Island Sounds in Southampton, which closed like Tower a few years ago. And that sort of started a love affair with 12-inch vinyl, with hip hop. I was young. I mean, I was obsessed with records, probably starting at age 5. I started playing drums at age 4. So rhythm, beats, records, that was sort of a part of my every day. And I had parents that were really encouraging of me to sort of pursue creative interests. And then as I got a little older, I discovered that there were these weekend mix shows like Awesome 2, Chuck Chillout, Red Alert, Mr. Magic, Marley Marl. And that once those shows entered my life, it was like, it's a wrap.
The OGs for sure. During your days at 89.9 WKCR, you guys gave a platform to so many different people that we consider greats today. Biggie, Big Pun, Big L. Rest in peace. Jay-Z, Eminem, Nas. Was there anybody who came through those doors or almost made it through those doors that you were like, damn, I wish we had them on the show?
We wish what?
That you wish you had them on the show. Was there anybody that you didn't come through?
Rakim never came through.
Yeah.
But we got him.
You got him on NPR now. Nearly 30 years later.
LL was a favorite of ours, and I worked at Def Jam for 4 years, was instrumental in the resurrection of his career with the Mama Said Knock You Out album because of the promo and the A&R I was doing. And Stretch actually worked at Def Jam for me. He interned for a couple of sleepy months. But yeah, LL never came up either. What other great 80s artists that I think that we sort of revered that we would have loved? I mean, it's very few. Like Ultramagnetic, we revered. KRS, we revered. Tribe Called Quest, we revered. Jungle Brothers. All these groups from the late 80s that preceded our time on the radio starting in 1990. They wound up coming up. They knew the value of continuing to speak to the audience that we had cultivated, because we became like the platform of the new voice. Like all the artists that you mentioned, and then we had about 300 unsigned artists come through our doors in 8 years, and so some of them wound up becoming huge, like Mobb Deep. Some of them wound up just staying underground, like Cage or Talib came through. He eventually became big, but he was underground for a very long time too. So, yeah.
How does your discovery of artists differ now? I mean, we are in an age where you can get music from all different corners of the internet, streaming services, and sometimes it's dictated by what's hot on the charts or what's trending on Twitter. So, do you guys still find artists in an exciting way?
Well, Bob has remained a true and faithful vinyl head. So if you have a record or if you have music out that's not on vinyl, he's not even going to listen to it. I mean, you're just dead in the water. So, and the scope of his digging ability is limited to that. And in some ways, I envy him because I get music from everywhere, and it's kind of a schizophrenic practice, right? Because there's just so much music come from anywhere. I don't really have a set way of doing it. I mean, I've gotten much more into buying vinyl again, both new and old, and partly inspired by this guy, who I'd like to think was partly inspired by me, because I was a voracious collector of vinyl in the 90s.
Well, I mean, clearly we were roommates, and I have a film.
You ever stole a record from me?
No,
No?
never.
Ever
But you
borrowed
did-
it and put
you-
it back?
No, you blessed me with the Chill Rob G signed 12-inch. You remember that?
I gave you one?
You gave me Chill Rob G's.
And it was
12
signed?
It wasn't signed by Chill Rob G. You signed it.
I signed it to you?
Signed it to me. But I have a autobiographical documentary that's out right now called Rock Rebel 45s. And in the narrative, I speak about how being on radio with this cat right here, who in my estimation was the best DJ of the 90s, and
Yes.
you know,
Can we get a round of applause, please?
because of his versatility. He was a club DJ, he was a radio DJ. He knew the difference between both, and he had a record collection that was incredible. And so yeah, it did inspire me to become a DJ, and eventually I became a club DJ in my own right, and collecting records. And in terms of discovering artists now, I do find that there's a lot of amazing music throughout the world. I mean, we travel often, and so a routine is like, yo, we in Geneva, come on, let's go to the shop, and we see what records are domestically released in Switzerland that may not have international distribution, and then we have the edge because we come back to New York or we come back to wherever, and we play the records, and like, oh, you know.
For sure. In terms of being, co-hosts of What's Good, I mean, you guys are so embedded in hip hop culture, but you're just fans of music altogether. So how do you guys prepare for interviewing the likes of, Mahershala Ali or even a Stevie Wonder? Like, how deep is your research?
It's pretty deep. I mean, when we did a show in the 90s, we didn't have a producer, and there certainly was preparation because one aspect of that show was getting music that nobody else had. So that took a lot of time on both of our parts, from interfacing with artists and producers and just anyone, managers and whatever.
Labels.
And labels. Right now, we're fortunate enough to have, not just a production staff, but a production staff that's made up of some of the finest people in the game. I mean, NPR, their journalistic standards are sky high, and the people that they bring in are world class, and they do an incredible job of making us look really, really knowledgeable. So there's a lot of preparation that goes in.
And then we do our own prep work as well, because we don't just rely on their vision for how he and I are going to interview somebody. I mean, like Stevie Wonder, for example, and I could retire from entertainment after interviewing Stevie Wonder. That's like my favorite artist. And
He was playing on the piano during your interview as well.
You listen.
Crazy. Yeah.
Thank you for listening. Yeah.
You're
And but I played music, and I brought something to that interview because of my expertise with him as an artist that I don't think other NPR hosts could do or would do, or other platforms would do. And so I think, what's peculiar about our podcast is that we're not the typical NPR hosts, but we're not Stretch and Bobbito of 1995 either. I think we have seasons ourselves. We're both intelligent, we're both well-read, we're both well-traveled, and we bring all those narratives into the digestion of it's not a Q&A, like we're sharing our experiences with the artists, because some of them are fans of ours and they want to know what we think as well. So it's really, we try to just get to that soft space where the artist is no longer artist, but just like, yo, we're just kicking it.
So now you guys are traveling around the world. You're DJing, doing documentaries. You're also embedded in sneaker culture as well, doing so many different things beyond the radio show. How do you keep that grind fresh?
How do you ask us questions without having cue cards?
It's all
I'm
in my
impressed, right?
head.
Yeah.
Mental notes.
Yeah, well, we at NPR, we're not on camera, so we just be having like a nice big list, just crossing off. But I'm sorry, you want to answer?
I mean, I feel like that question is more for you because you do wear more hats professionally than I do. But I think that the thing that we have in common is that we've been blessed with the opportunity to pursue the things that get us excited about, waking up every day as a career, right? I mean, the older you get, if you've got responsibilities like, children, family, jobs, and whatnot, I know with our peers that share the same interests, as they get older, you've got to make a decision as to like what you're gonna do with your time. And you know, a lot of the time the first thing to go is going to be all those things, you know, entertainment, music, and whatnot going out that used to bring you a lot of joy. And you know, I'm 48 years old right now, and I'm telling you, I do not feel it at all. I mean, my life is quite similar to how it was. I mean, it's a little bit different. I don't go out all the time, but I'm still able to, you know, be in this chamber of music, entertainment, creative people. Feel really lucky for that.
Yeah, I think I'm going to point again to my current documentary. I directed a film about our history. It's titled Stretch and Bobbito, Ready to Change Lives.
It's on Netflix.
Did you see it?
Yes, I did.
Word.
I was doing my research.
Anyone out here seen it? Yeah.
Word.
Haven't, do it right after this. Like,
1/4
immediately.
of the audience.
So my new film, Rock Rubber 45s, which is available for download on Vimeo, I speak to very much the spirit of when something is not fresh, I actually let it go and I move on. And I've made career suicide in a number of different lanes.
We both have.
Yeah, we both have. So I mean, you know, I think we've been blessed to be reinvigorated by new challenges. You know, Stretch published a book last year on flyers in the greatest history of New York club scene.
It's called No Sleep, if you're interested.
Yeah, and you know, I've taken on filmmaking. I have 3 that I've directed, and but doesn't mean I'm going to be doing films for the rest of my life. You know, when it's not fresh, I've tried to just move on. The thing that stayed fresh that I have never gotten tired of is playing records and playing basketball. And I found a deep passion for each of those as a child, and I've been able to somehow sustain and milk that enthusiasm for each and figure out a way to get paid to do both all throughout. So I feel very blessed about that.
For sure. I mean, that's the goal, to wake up and love what you do every single day so that it doesn't feel like work.
You love interviewing us?
I do.
Okay.
We should do this every day, right?
This is cool. You got a very chill space.
Exactly. You know, 2018 has blessed us with a lot of different releases from all different types of genres. What was the last album that you guys were excited about from this year? And it doesn't even have to be hip hop.
I think the first thing that comes to mind is a unreleased soundtrack. I hate to be biased, to my own film, Rock Rubber 45.
Got a plug, it's
yeah,
fine.
Yeah. So we released a 7-inch, and it's a double A-side. One is the title track, which I produced. I never produced a record in my life, and I put together Robert Glasper, Grammy Award winner, Eddie Palmieri, Grammy Award winner, Mireya Ramos, who plays the violin, Latin Grammy Award winner, the Do-Rights, legendary hip-hop DJ Rob Swift, and some percussionists, and we did the title track, and we're releasing it as a 7-inch. The flip is Grammy Award winner Pharoah Monch, who's my favorite MC of all time, and Jill Scott, who's another Grammy Award winner. So I got like 4 Grammy Award winners on a double-sided 7-inch that already sold out. It went out available for pre-order, and it just, boom, it's gone. So I'm trying to work on a soundtrack to feature other artists that contributed original score music to the film. So be on the lookout for that.
Okay, cool.
We interviewed Black Thought of The Roots yesterday.
Word. Yeah.
And I really, in preparation for that, dove more deeply into his most recent creations. Everyone knows about that 10-minute freestyle that he did with Funk Flex.
Killed it.
I don't know if you've heard his freestyle that he did at Harvard. Anyone peeped that? It's bananas. And of course, Streams of Thought, Volume 1, really, you know, I don't listen to that much new hip hop, but I did listen to that, and I'm just, you know, it was reminiscent of the feeling that I used to get on a weekly basis back in the 90s. That record really packs a punch.
Stretch, I know that you have Polish roots and you're a proud Puerto Rican. Does that dictate what you guys do?
Proud Polish as well.
Proud both very proud of your roots.
I don't know what. I haven't figured out where the pride part of being Polish is. It's like, I'm Polish. I didn't pick it. I don't do much about it. It doesn't really inform my life that much.
So you've never
that
gone
the
back to
question?
Poland?
What's
since
that?
then? So, since you've never,
I've
you've
been
never
to
been
Poland,
back?
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's not back to Poland because
Yeah.
I'm not from Poland.
Yeah.
But I've never been booked in Poland.
You got to get on that then. What are you doing with your life?
Book me, make it happen.
Right. But the question was like, how do your New York roots, your ethnicity, how does it inform what you do, and how do you continue to, I guess, show pride?
I mean, we only got 20 minutes to talk here. That's a loaded
53
question.
seconds. No.
Yeah, that's a loaded question. Why are you looking at me?
Because you're about to answer the question. I want to hear what you have to say, Robert Garcia.
Yeah, I think growing up, I was uncertain about my roots just because I wasn't born in PR and I didn't speak the language but as an adult, I feel like I have a firm grasp on not only who I am but also the legacy of what my country has done and my people have done, and in a political aspect, in a social construct, and but all that said, I truly, I was thinking about this the other day because I have a 4-year-old, right, and he's starting to wonder like, well, what am I like, and I was just like, eventually he might just be like, what, I'm just a New Yorker, like, just because that's like a nationality, like you travel the world. I've been to 43 countries, 6 continents, and it's like, people know I'm from New York from jump. I just got to open up my mouth. And they're like, oh, you're from New York, And back in the day before, like, Nike and And1 really, like, was able to take the look of the New York ball player and package that, and back in the day prior to, music videos and concert tours were able to, and then eventually apparel, streetwear was able to package the New York look. Traveling in the 70s and 80s, like, it was clear you were from New York just by virtue of what sneakers you had on, how you laced them, just how you walked, everything. So, but now that's you can go to Auckland or you can go to Tokyo, you can go to Manila and see people that dress and walk the same exact way as they might do in Flushing, Queens. So it's not homogenous, but it's definitely it's been extended, But yeah, being in New York is the best shit ever. I lived outside of New York for last year, and I just moved back.
We could clap it
I'm
up for
like
New York.
stupid happy to be back in New York.
For sure. All right, so I'm gonna punt the mic over to the audience for some questions. Actually, don't be shy, y'all.
How you doing? My name is Dwight Bonaire from Jersey, and I wanted to know what was the standard to get you on the Bobbito show back in the day, because you was catching artists from everywhere. You know what I mean?
The Bobbito show.
And Stretch Armstrong, player, come on, you know the truth.
all
Stretch
good.
and Bobbito.
We, really, it was, there are different paths to get on the show, whether it was, your cassette, then your DAT, your record, or or actually, being invited to be live. But the one, the one thing that was required was you just had to be nice, and it didn't matter if you were from South Carolina, Seattle, New York. Didn't matter if you were on Def Jam or you just had a really crappy sounding cassette. It was a meritocracy, and I think if you listen to recordings of our shows, you'll see like just a great variety of styles, of geography, of topics that are explored through lyrics.
Of gender as well.
Yeah.
I mean, 90s hip hop was male dominated, but we would have women come through our doors on a regular basis who were nasty. And the other thing too is that Stretch and I we were in this scene, the downtown scene. So, he was DJing at clubs. Almighty KG would hop on a mic, and then we would invite him to the show, like, yo, come up. Or I was at the New York Poets Cafe I did that at the Village Gate, right down the block before we moved to the New York, doing open mics, for spoken word artists and MCs. And, Cat would kill it, Sister would kill it. Yo, come up to the show. So it wasn't just recorded demos and that. It was anything that came through the ecosystem. You know, Source Magazine was right down on 598 Broadway, just below Houston Street. They had the Unsigned Hype column. You know, Maddie C would come to 652 Broadway at the Def Jam office, or I would go to 598 Broadway to the Source office. We would share demos and, yo, Biggie's dope. You should have him on the show. Just Stretch, you cool with it? Word. Come on, let's bring up Biggie. You know, a kid. And that's how it worked. You know, that's how it worked.
Yeah, how did y'all get in contact with Ghetto the Communicator? Because that's a partner of mine. He was on your Netflix, and he was someone who was on your show. And was that the same currency? Like just catching on? Because I know he used to write for the Source. That was just one thing that was blew in my mind.
Yeah, gentleman asked about a cat named Ghetto Communicator.
Yeah, his mic skills are poor. He doesn't know how to keep them. He's like, yo, and,
Oh, my bad. I didn't know it was
and
that.
then
I don't remember how we met Ghetto Communicator, but I mean, he's an example of someone that was a fixture on our show. He had just an abundance of personality, was really nice at being able to rhyme spontaneously off the top of the head. He was not interested in getting a deal, whatever. He did his thing in the daytime, but Thursday nights he would come up and just live and breathe hip-hop with us on the airway, not for any ulterior motive, just to be in the presence of what was going on, you know, inside those four walls on a Thursday night.
yeah, he was just a fixture of the downtown scene, similar to what he was part of that ecosystem. You know, prior to working at the Source, he was in the ciphers at Washington Square Park, and he was at the clubs. You know, he was just somebody that we would see all the time. We just got cool with him.
Got two more questions.
Yes, hi. My name is Ben Yaron. I'm from Long Island, Nassau. I have like a two-part question. The first part is, did you ever interview an artist he used to sell his cassette tape in front of Fat Beat's Percy P? Oh, you did?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. All right.
His whole start, well, not start, but he has about Percy P. Yeah, Stretch signed him to Big Beat Atlantic.
I gave Percy P his first record deal. Yeah,
Oh,
it was like my first attempt at doing something professional as a record label person.
Oh, okay.
And he was actually responsible for bringing Large Professor to our station. So Percy rhymed on our show back in probably November of 1990, and then he brought up Large Professor, and then Large Professor brought up Nas and Nakanelli
In February.
of 1991, and then this is 3 years before Illmatic drops, and Nas and Nakanelli at the time were unsigned.
And the other question, sorry, is would you ever consider doing anything? I heard the interview with Sway in the Morning. Would you ever consider doing something on the LL Cool J XM radio channel?
If they were able to pay us, sure.
Well, if the question is, would we do a hip hop show?
Oh, okay.
Likely not.
Yeah,
We already did that.
and I think we did it okay. We did it pretty well. So, yeah. But that's back to her point about, you know, keeping things fresh. You know, the What's Good with Stretch and Bobbito podcast is a challenge for us because we have to put on the journalism hat, you know, the interviewer hat for the highest level of news platform, period, NPR, you know. So highly trusted. It's not fake news.
And then we got one more.
Hi. So my question is kind of obviously with the rise of the internet age and it being more accessible and you don't need to go into a studio anymore to be able to put out an album and you can distribute it yourself with SoundCloud. I was kind of wondering where you think the future of hip hop is going and if you think we're going to see more people kind of like up and coming on their own and creating their own small fan bases and kind of like just generally, yeah, like where you think the genre is going.
I mean, I think we're already in the future, right? I mean, like the term SoundCloud rapper is like that's an actual term that is used, and you know, I don't pay attention to the industry game because I don't have to, but I know that the major players, the big labels they're more interested in signing artists that have already done a lot of the heavy lifting. So what you just described that's where we're at. What the future will bring, I don't know. But there's a lot of good stuff in the rearview mirror that you probably don't know about because you're not 48.
But also, let's not minimize hip hop to rap music, right? So if you look at turntablism and if you look at what's happening in the b-boy, b-girl world, and the South Korea crews that are winning world championships, and the Filipinos that are crushing it in the West Coast, and it's a very universal and global movement in a lot of different ways and a lot of different means of expression. So in that respect, hip hop has probably not even reached its full potential, which is crazy to think about.
Sure. All right, before we get out of here, let the good people know where they can watch season 2 of What's Good with Stretch and Bobbito.
Well, you did say watch. There is going to be a video component on Spotify.
Nice.
But it's we're at npr.org/what's good. And we're on Twitter at Stretch and Bob. He's at Cool Bob Love with a K. I am at Stretch Armstrong. We're on Instagram at Stretch and Bobbito. We're on Facebook. Easy to find us.
Yeah, you can also find us on Apple Podcasts too. Yeah.
Thanks. All right,
And
season 2.
NPR One is an app that you can listen to our subscribe.
Perfect. And then season 2 airs on
August 15th.
next week.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Wow.